Good afternoon, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call our Suffolk City Council work session to order. Please be advised that Councilmember Butler Barlow will not be present and she has been excused. We have one item for discussion this evening, and that is related to the 2045 Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of Council. Over the past year, staff has continued to brief City Council on the ongoing development of the 2045 Comprehensive Land Use Plan update. Discussions have recently focused more on the defined types of development which could occur in various areas of our city. This afternoon, staff will discuss the options that City Council may consider in the future for expansion of our growth centers, and Mr. Keith Kennedy, long-term planner, will present. Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to keep you all up to date on the progress of our comprehensive plan update. As the manager indicated, we're going to focus this afternoon on one of our bigger decisions and one of our bigger recommendations around expansion of the growth area boundaries, which is a regular item as we update our comprehensive plan. And a lot of work has gone into this, so I want to spend a little bit of time sharing that with you, what led us to make this recommendation, looking back at the progress we've made on the project, how it fits in with the overall growth strategy that the city has been implementing for a couple of decades, 25 years or so. What are the drivers of growth in Suffolk, both population and economic development opportunities playing a role there. Talk about how this continues to fit in with infrastructure developments to support this growth strategy. And then finally identify the options that we considered for revising the growth boundary and recommending to you all what we think is a good balanced approach for going forward out to the public again for another round of input, but this time seeking response to a fairly specific recommendation in a draft plan. So I'll identify some steps in that process for you coming up in the next few weeks. Again, this has been underway for a while. We're about 18 months into this process as of today, and squarely in the third and final phase of drafting the plan, but started out again, generating ideas, asking some critical questions, collecting data, testing out options, and now at that point where we want to share the direction that we think is best for going forward. As you all know, this was a really big part of the process, engaging with the community. We took a couple of opportunities to slow down, provide additional opportunities for community engagement along the way. But we started out right in the beginning with this as a real critical part of doing this project. Formed focus groups back in the spring and summer of 2022. Went out into the community in the fall of 2022 just to announce this project was underway and encourage people to participate. We've been working with a steering committee of folks identified by City Council from the beginning and will continue to do that. We meet fairly regularly with community groups, organizations out there who are wondering where we are in the process and how can they participate. That will go on. We created a specific website for this project at the beginning as we got underway. We used social media, online engagement for folks who can't come out and attend our meetings, online surveys. Again, that work will continue, including with this most recent phase. Held a number of community engagement sessions where we just went out and listened to the community about this time last year and got a lot of additional good feedback. This was your subject of your retreat in April of 2023, and I'll share some of the findings from that as well. And in this past summer, June, we went out to the community in a series of open house events and went out with city staff and presented where we were in the process and got some additional feedback. And we are planning another open house event that I'll talk about in a minute in March of this year. So again, starting back at the at the retreat where we took a pretty deep dive into our smart growth strategy and how you and previous city councils have been doing that for quite some time. And what we found is that really the last three comprehensive plans have tackled this issue, implemented a growth management strategy. And if you go back and look at those plans, there's a very consistent theme that's been building over the years while this has been an important issue for Suffolk. So the first one, adopted in 1998, had these basic themes for the community to address. Another clear consistency throughout this process has been a city that is growing, and this graph is from that plan. The second plan adopted in April 2006. Again, those common themes were adopted by that city council as incorporated into that plan. Again, going back to, well, how is the population going in Suffolk? Again, looking at a growing community and projected to continue going forward. All the way up to the current plan, which we are adopting right now, adopted by a previous council in 2015. Again, those themes are very, very consistent, and we're building on that. And what we shared with you all at the retreat was a map that showed how the growth boundary actually expanded throughout that 25-year period or so. And if you look at this map showing the two growth areas and the expansions that were recommended and adopted by council, and getting a little closer look, this is the northern growth area boundary showing the changes that occurred again throughout that period, and again the central growth area boundary, same thing, gradually increasing the growth area in the city in response to those pressures to grow as a community. So again, really building on that this past 18 months or so as we do the work of updating the plan. And again, looking at the current projections, continuing to grow, and that is expected to be part of our future going forward into 2040. Another major driver, and this is somewhat unique for this particular plan update, is really an historic investment in the Port of Virginia and growth in container traffic at that facility, and really changing the dynamic for the state and for the region in terms of economic development opportunities. This is an article that we shared with you at the retreat, where it was projected back in 2005 that we'd see a tripling of container growth at the port. Lo and behold, that's essentially what happened. Is this news clipping shows, and we shared with you all last April. So again, a major driver of what's happening here in Hampton Roads, and an intentional one to expand port activity, take advantage of that geographic location and those facilities to grow the port and Virginia's economy as a result. We also shared some comparisons of Suffolk and Hampton Roads with you at that time. Are we growing too much, not enough? What can we expect? If you look at Hampton Roads compared to other regions, we're towards the bottom of that list in terms of square footage of warehouse development and underway at that time in those regions. And also, if you look at Suffolk compared to the region, again, just another snapshot of a way to look at how we compare to other cities in the region. While it was indicated then that we have the highest amount of square footage, we're also the biggest locality in Hampton Roads. So if you compare us to other cities, we're towards the bottom in terms of a percentage of the locality size. So again, having that conversation with you all at the retreat and trying to set the stage for what this plan and what we would ultimately recommend. We've also talked a lot about and heard a lot about coordinating our growth as a city with our investments in infrastructure, particularly around transportation. We've analyzed this topic a lot, worked closely with our Public Works Department and their partners, and again, made that statement at the open house of just how important this is, and showed the evidence of how that is in fact happening. That's where we're investing our limited dollars in transportation to support the growth that we are seeing in the two designated growth areas. And essentially, again, the same story with our water and sewer utilities. A couple of images from our discussions with the community back in June about the importance, again, of coordinating these investments, these capital investments with the growth as it occurs in the city. And so, again, you'll notice that water distribution, the water service system within those growth area boundaries largely, as well as the investments in future plans for our sewer service area. So again, just setting the stage for the work, the input that has driven this conversation. And again, from the images that we shared back in June, we made some pretty clear points, we thought, based on what we had heard at that time. Continue to focus growth within established growth areas. Look at downtown in North Suffolk as continuing to be a major source of growth and development in the city, and leveraging existing investments and capital investments and promoting fiscal responsibility and encouraging growth to continue on that path. We also talked about taking advantage of job opportunities. Again, getting back at least to one example, investments at the port. We're creating opportunities for Suffolk. Consider that as we looked at growth area boundaries. Consider combining the two growth areas, something that had come up in previous updates that's on our radar as well. And again, looking at specific areas that might make the most sense for these job opportunities, and specifically Route 460 corridor and the Route 58 corridor. So that was actually converted into this map that we take to most of the meetings that we go out to and shared with the Planning Commission and Council. There were particular areas we wanted to look at as potentially appropriate places to expand the growth boundaries. And this was a way to show that, and again, at that time, very general terms, again, looking at the 460 and 58 corridor, looking at the area between the two growth areas, and of course, recognizing that we also had great opportunities downtown and in the North Suffolk mixed-use core area. So that map gave rise to this map, which shows you the options that we've actually considered in this process and put into our recommendation. I apologize, the map doesn't do complete justice to this, so I'll drill down a little bit more closely, but it shows you 6 options that we've considered, starting with, as I mentioned, possibly combining the two growth areas. That's option A. Looking at the 460 corridor, that's option B and C. Looking at the 58 corridor west, that's option D and E. And also looking at the Route 1032 corridor going north out of the central growth area. So those were all put on the table and evaluated for this recommendation. So what I'll do is just walk you through those very quickly, and again, apologize for the limitations on the slide image, but I'll try to get you oriented to what we've listed as recommendations, and again, where we are proposing to go forward. So this is looking at the northern growth area in the city. That's the blue line there, and in green is the option to expand that growth area known as option A. Just to orient you a little bit, this has got the Nansemond River on the left side of the slide, This is the home of landmarks like the Nansemond River High School, Elementary School, of course, the Great Dismal Swamp National Wildlife Refuge on the bottom of the slide. To the far right of that area, you'll see the Northgate Commerce Park, and closer to the boundary itself for the growth area, the Bridlewood subdivision. So, and roads coming together there, Nansemond Parkway and Wilroy Road, for example. What we recommended is to take in that area in between the two growth areas and expand the boundary to what we think is a more logical boundary, which in this case is the railroad. So that's option A. Again, a little bit closer look at that in terms of what's around it and what we're proposing. Again, the blue line showing you the current growth boundary, and the kind of greenish line showing option A, which is one of the 6 options that we're considering. 5 options actually looked at for the central growth area boundary, and I'll walk you through each one of these. 2 of them, of course, around the 460 and the 58 corridor, and what we believe are significant economic development opportunities in that area. Option B, what you're looking at, takes the boundary out from the current boundary, which is the purple line you see on the right side of the slide. So outlined in yellow is option B. This goes out to the city-county line, north to the Western Branch Reservoir, and right in the middle of that slide, of course, is the 460 corridor itself. Comes south, in this case, to a wetland area that, again, forms a logical boundary for that corridor and would allow us to capitalize, we think, on some of the options that are out there. Option C, very similar, picks up where option B leaves off and actually goes south to the next railroad line as the boundary for this area. Again, the same features there. This one actually includes the Lake Cahoon area to the south, and again picks up and goes west to capture property around the 460 corridor. Option D looks to take advantage of some of the opportunities going west out of Route 58. Again, the purple line shows you the existing growth area boundary. Some of the landmarks out here, you'll see the Center Point and Westport Commerce Parks within the growth area, largely built out on this slide here. You'll see those. Again, the green line is option D, and it runs out to about Chapel Road on the western boundary of this option D. Option E, again, takes that out a little bit further to Buckhorn Road, but again, continues with that theme of taking advantage of the opportunities that we think exist along the 58 corridor. And finally, we're looking at the Route 1032 corridor going north out of the central growth area. This is shown here in the yellow orangish line. You see the Western Branch Reservoir on the right of the slide, the Nansemond River on the left of the slide, of course, Godwin Boulevard running up the spine. This would include Sack Point Road and Kingsdale Road into the boundary. Another area we feel has opportunity for residential growth and potential expansion of the boundary. So after looking at those options, this is what we are prepared to recommend that we go forward with. This would include option A, option A between the two growth area boundaries, recommending we include that option. And option B in the 460 corridor, option D in the 58 corridor, and also F, which is the Route 10 32 corridor going north. Again, a little bit better view of that, looking at a closer image of those, and again, showing you the option A connecting the two growth area boundaries there in green, option F in the orange color going north out of the central growth area, and the smaller option in yellow, option B, and option D in the 58 corridor. Of course, this plan also includes land use recommendations for the growth area boundaries, including the expanded options that we're considering. We've discussed those with you all in previous work sessions and just recently in a session with the Planning Commission. Again, it's our recommendation that we think we've got a balanced approach here. We think this new approach to land use will achieve some benefits for us as well in terms of predictability and being more focused in terms of how we project new growth in these corridors. Here again, you'll see, looking at a more detailed map, option A, connecting the two growth areas recommended for traditional neighborhood development. You'll see that sort of a peach color there. And again, the central growth area boundary expansion, looking at residential opportunities going north up Route 10 and 32. That's the yellow color there, suburban neighborhood development. And then the 460 corridor showing suburban neighborhood development north of 460, but really taking advantage of the employment opportunities south of 460. That's the purple color you see there. And the same approach really in the 58 corridor, looking at employment center opportunities north of 58 and residential opportunities south of 58 on that slide. So a lot of information to absorb for the community. So one reason that we have set out a schedule which we think offers a lot of time for us to present these options to the community in these open house events, put material online that people can go and find out what's being proposed and the reasoning behind it and the detailed descriptions of those new land use categories and the boundaries that were proposed. So here's what we're planning over the next several weeks going forward with this recommendation. We will plan on coming back to you all in your work session in February. We haven't yet talked too much about downtown and the North Suffolk opportunity areas. We're scheduled to do that at your February 7th work session. We're planning on going back to the Planning Commission in February with a briefing something like this one, where we lay out the growth area recommendations and the land uses recommended. And then in February, at your second work session, we plan on inviting the consultant in and preparing a presentation that really summarizes the whole plan as we're recommending it. Post that document online with all the details and the maps associated with it. Begin that online engagement part of the process at that time. Have a follow-up meeting with our steering committee. And then we've scheduled these 3 open house events in March for the 13th, 14th, and 16th. Again, looking at strategic locations around the city to make ourselves available to the entire city. 2 in the evening, 1 on a Saturday morning here at City Hall. And again, take the time that we think this requires to present what we're recommending and begin to get some feedback. before coming back to you all in the March or April timeframe, sharing that input with you, recommending any or considering any additional revisions to what we're proposing, and then prepare for a public hearing and adoption schedule in the spring or summer, really dependent on what kind of feedback we get in the March timeframe, as well as from our online engagement. So that's our map for going forward and what we would like to recommend, Mr. Mayor, and take back out to the community. So I'll stop there and take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Before I ask for questions and comments, I understand the manager wants to clarify an issue on February 7th.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, February 7th, that will be during your regular session. Your work session will be dedicated to the CIP that evening.
Okay, council, questions, comments? No questions, no comments? You're not going to get off that light. I got a couple comments.
It's a
anyhow.
lot. It's a lot to think about, for sure.
Yeah, manager says you need to earn your money tonight. So I was just looking at number one. I cannot really. I know I've said it before. How much time has gone into the formation and presentation of this comprehensive plan? In my time on council, I don't think we've dedicated as much time to any one subject. With the community engagement, the number of meetings that we have, and the number we're going forward, which is the way it should be, because this is something that we want to get right, or as we possibly can. I have no objection to any of the topics, or if you will, that we are taking into consideration. I think we've touched on all the factors. I'm not too sure on the growth options, the Route 10 on the other side of Reach Ferry Bridge. I like that option A. The only thing I have a bit of an issue with is the growth on Nansemond Parkway, because that is going to put somewhat of a strain on the schools and also on the transportation, but that's something that we can address through planning, and of course this is a long-range plan, but I do have a little bit of an issue with that until we are able to, or even the school board decides maybe to move up Nansemond River High School as a higher priority on their list of projects. Option B and C, if I'm not mistaken, are the 460 options. I'm okay with either one, but I think you're recommending B, which is the shorter option, or not as large an area. Personally, I don't have any problem with C on 460, because I think we're going to get a better mix of commercial and residential, and there's not a lot there right now, so I think that's, to me, one of the prime growth corridors, especially with the anticipated improvement on Route 460, the road system between there and 58. I agree 100% on the 58 options there. Option D, the shorter one, rather than go to option E, which is all the way to Buckhorn, I would be I think most of that is going to be commercial development, and I would be a little concerned as far as stretching that all the way out to Buckhorn until we see how our new improved 58 is going to operate and handle that additional flow of traffic. So, I'm okay with the D part, and option F was, did I get it wrong? Yeah, option F is the Route 10. Yeah, option A is that department. And option F, that area on Route 10 on the other side of Sack Point Road, the other side of Reach Ferry Bridge, I think that's a logical expansion of where we could have some residential there, depending on what it is. And I do understand that our comp plan, when it's submitted, is going to provide more guidance than our previous comp plans, in that we may have a growth area, but we're also going to describe the type of growth that we'd like to have, whether it be residential or industrial. So it'll provide a little bit more guidance over and above what we're dealing with now, and also more guidance for those that are interested in doing business in our city. So with that being said, I'll ask for any more questions or comments one more time. And If not, thank you very much for your presentation. Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our work session. Madam Clerk, do we have any appointments this evening?
We do have two items for the closed meeting. We don't, we do
No
have some other
appointments,
items
but
too.
we do have need for a closed meeting.
Yes,
Okay,
we
with
do
that-
have a need for a closed meeting, yes.
Okay, thank you. Would you go ahead and present the motion for consideration?
Pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A8 and A1, the consultation with legal counsel employed by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the legal advice of such counsel, and the discussion, considerations, or interviews of prospective candidates for appointment, and the assignment, appointment, and the performance of specific public officers or the appointees of the city, specifically the appointments as shown on the attached list for vacancies or term expirations for the Community Policy Management Team, the Early Childhood Development Commission, the Fine Arts Commission, the Human Services Advisory Board, the Local Board of Building Code Appeals, the Suffolk Sister Cities Commission, the Suffolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority, Tidewater Youth Services Commission, Western Tidewater Community Services Board, and the Wetlands Board. Item number 2, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body requiring specific legal matters, requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically pertaining to the Suffolk-Chesapeake boundary.
Councilman Fawcett.
Move for approval,
Got a
Mayor.
motion for approval from Councilman Fawcett. Councilman Williams.
Second that, Mayor.
Second from Councilman Williams. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, council members prepare to vote. Please cast your vote. Madam Clerk, please record the vote.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
This meeting stands adjourned, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m.